Rev up your engines! All right, you wonder about SUVs? Well, guess what? This isn't an SUV according to BMW. They don't call them SUVs. They call them sports activity vehicles. They're SAVs instead of SUVs. Yeah, it's a mid-size SUV, really. She's almost the original owner, about 3,000 miles. Now it's got like 103,000 miles, and she thinks she's got a problem with the transmission, which could very well be the case. But this is the first generation that they made. All made in Germany, not made in the United States. They really did a good job building these things. And my experience with this particular model, the first generation, is this. If they're maintained correctly, they can last a long time. The problem is the maintenance actually done? As we look under the hood, there's something missing. Actually, there's two things missing. If you look around, there is no engine oil dipstick and there is no transmission oil dipstick. Why? Because they can, right? But it's plain stupidity. Maybe it's because they know they're going to be crooked, so they make them that way. Her transmission has probably got a problem. We're going to run through some stuff. It wasn't acting right. She took it to BMW. They said, oh, it's not your transmission. They never break. It's the transfer case for the all-wheel drive. So she paid like 5,500 smackers, and it didn't fix the problem. Now, she had all her servicing done at the BMW dealer, and theoretically, they've serviced the transmission. Now, I can't tell you if they serviced the transmission, because it's sealed. There is no dipstick. And of course, the same thing goes for your engine oil. I can't tell if the engine oil's been changed. There's no dipstick, right? It has a sending unit that tells you, theoretically, when it isn't broken, that you're low on oil, right? But that's it. So I couldn't tell if anybody ever changed the oil on this thing unless I dropped the oil pan, and if it was all full of sludge, I'd say, well, I guess they didn't change it very often. Taking those things out is just total insanity for the owner, but like I said, maybe it's just planned obsolescence by BMW. I have never seen one break within the warranty period. They always wear out like this, 100,000 miles, right? She's paid for servicing. I don't know if they've serviced it, and I kind of doubt if they did, because these are the same people who sold her a $5,500 transfer case for the all-wheel drive when it wasn't the problem, and now they're saying, well, maybe it's the transmission. Maybe. Great mechanics there, BMW. You can see, she has taken care of this car. Garage. They were solid built cars. I mean, listen to the door. Those are solid built cars. In the interior, the leather's still in excellent shape. You could re-dye it if you wanted, but it's not ripped or torn. Lots of space. These were a very popular vehicle for BMW. Back in the day, the modern ones, everything is super plastic. They have all kinds of problems. They cost a fortune to maintain as they wear and break down. But this is the first generation they ever made of these. This is one of the last of the first generation. I'm assuming that they never changed the transmission fluid in it. We're going to find out if this thing is bad by hooking up my fancy computer. We'll do a standalone diagnosis. And as we can see, it's an X Series USA 09. And up pops everything. We're going to do a full scan of the car. Full fault scan. And while we do, the interior's in immaculate shape. She has taken care of this car. There's no arguing that. Car is in excellent shape, other than she says the transmission's acting up. Slowly but surely it's getting there. It's got 14 trouble codes at 78% done. Okay, it ended up with 19 codes. So we're going to start with the engine. It's got codes for the electric coolant pump, eccentric shaft sensor. It has a bunch of dynamic stability control problems. Airbag system is a problem with no message from the control unit. Immobilizer has a problem. Well, it starts and runs. Maybe it's a low battery or something. And it has the transfer box, has oil wear. They supposedly replaced the transfer box. And a code for the Servotronic control unit. Internal control unit fault. That has to do with the drivetrain, the transmission, and all-wheel drive. Then there's a bunch of general module ones. Battery voltage, open Windows. We don't care about that. ECU internal problem with this electronic control unit. You can see that the electronic transmission control itself doesn't have a problem, right? So it might not be the transmission. It might be in the transfer case that they supposedly fixed because it says it also has oil wear in the transfer box. See, they said they put a new transfer case in, but it is saying that there is oil wear, that the oil is worn out in it, making me think they didn't really do anything at all. And it also says problem with the electronic control unit for the Servotronic, which is the all-wheel drive system that works in conjunction with the transfer case. Electronic failure? Or they didn't change the fluid in it. Now here's her bill, and you can see she paid $6,545, including $4,469 for parts. As you can see here, the transfer case was $3,864.76. So something is rotten here in Denmark, or I should say in Deutschland. It says that the oil is old and worn out. No way. They're supposed to change the whole box. I'm assuming they put oil in it too, right? It's a sealed unit, like I said. There's no dipstick for any of this stuff. But then it's got a code for the control unit for the transfer case. That's not on the bill. And she said after they put this transfer case on and charged her $6,000 something, guess what? She said it still had the same problem. It could easily be a control unit problem in it because it still has a code for the control unit on it. So let's take it for a spin and see how it feels. I just felt it clunk. It's definitely got wear problems. We're going to take it on the Tobacco Road and see what it does at higher speeds, but I could definitely feel and hear the shifting. We're going to stop and take off again. Up. Oh, God. Oh, you're not kidding. Sheesh, it's like a machine gun going off under the car. Now, interesting enough, it only does it like it's doing now at low speeds. At high speeds, it doesn't do it at all. Now, here's the interesting thing. She's been driving it, doing this thumping, for 7 years. And it's driving her crazy. As you can see, once you get up to highway speeds, it stops doing it. It's only at low speeds when it's shifting gears. Now, I'm really wondering about the transfer case saying the oil is worn, since theoretically they replaced the whole thing, but it still did what it's doing when they replaced it, which to me, I'd say they should have given her money back. Now they're saying, well, maybe it's the transmission. All I'd have to say is, it does have a control unit, all-wheel drive system. It's got a code, says there's a problem in the computer for that. Now, if the computer for that has gone squirrely, it can easily start doing that jerking stuff. God, you can just feel it at low speeds. It feels like somebody is hammering on the car. Boom, boom, boom. But then when you got on highway speeds, it runs perfectly fine. Now, here's the intriguing part that pretty much cements my diagnosis. It's been thumping like that for her for the last 7 years, including after they put the transfer case in. It's about 50,000 miles she's driven it thumping like that. Doesn't on the highway, like I say, but does when it takes off. So my computer saying that there was a problem with the electronic control unit for the all-wheel drive system could easily be the fault. It's a totally electronically controlled system. It's all controlled by computers. And you saw it had a control unit problem code. And electronics are the only thing that make any sense that it can be shifting that bad and jerking for 7 years and 50,000 miles. If, let's say, it was the gears breaking down in the transmission, it's not going to go 7 years and 50,000 miles. The gears would have broken, fallen out, it would have locked up, it would have been undrivable. It's just pretty much undrivable at low speeds, but at high speeds it isn't. This thing has electronic problems. Now, the weird thing was, they charged her all that money for a transfer case, and the girl that worked there that did the service advice said, oh yes, we know it's that, we guarantee that's the problem. She got the car back and it wasn't fixed, and she went back, and it turns out they ended up firing that girl. She contacted the head of BMW, who never contacted her directly, but she got all these emails from other people in BMW, but they never fixed the problem. First of all, $6,500 and it didn't fix it. They should have said, we're so sorry, lady, we diagnosed it wrong, we'll fix it free now. No, they didn't offer anything like that. Now they tell her, we think it's the transmission. Well, I don't think it's the transmission. I think it's the electronic control unit, because my computer says there's a problem with the electronic control unit or the wiring going to it. Something I find extremely interesting. She took it back and this made to BMW because she had a recall. And they told her she needed all this gigantic work, shock absorbers, They want thousands and thousands of all these things that she needs to be done, which she refused. But they didn't mention anything about the transmission. My God, anybody get in this car and drive it down the road, and it's going first, second, third gear, it's going clunk, 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 clunk. What kind of idiots do they have working at this dealership? You'd think they would have said, oh yeah, you need a transmission. They didn't even mention a transmission, and a blind person could get in this car. What's wrong with this car? Thunka, 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 thunka. And it's been doing it for 7 years. They didn't even mention it. They tried to sell her the kitchen sink and didn't even mention the obvious problem of the car. They obviously didn't even drive the thing, and whoever drove the thing in and out, or if they even did road test it, didn't even mention anything. It just shows you the total lack of integrity at these BMW dealers. I mean, it's mind-blowing. I thought it was bad before, but I mean, they don't even mention the biggest problem any fool can see in this car, but they tried to sell her thousands of dollars of other stuff that the car doesn't even really need. It doesn't need shocks. It handles perfectly fine. It rides fine. It's just that transmission's been clunking for years. Probably an electronic control problem or a wiring problem. It shows electronic control problem on my computer, and they didn't even mention that stuff to her. They just told her, well, there's no sensors on the transmission to tell us if there's a problem. What a line of baloney. These things have all kinds of stuff on them. It showed the electronic control unit has some kind of a failure, and that's what shifts the car. It's shifted by computers. They didn't offer her money back. They didn't offer to fix it free. They just started saying, well, we think it's the transmission. Now, that's absurd. That shows that you think you're going to the BMW dealer and you're getting good mechanics. Ha! That's all I gotta say. They don't know what they're doing anymore. Maybe years ago they did. I knew some guys who were on U-boats that came over here. They were mechanics for BMW. They really did their stuff. But today, they just want to make money, charging stuff for people, and then saying, well, I guess that was wrong. Even though they guaranteed you that it'd fix it, they didn't fix anything. I'm just amazed that it's been doing this for 7 years and 50,000 miles, and it's still doing the same exact thing. So it's got to be electronic. Like I say, anything mechanical, it is going to break. Take your engine. If your engine's going clacka, 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 and it's a mechanical failure, it's not going to go 7 years and 50,000 miles. It's going to go boom and stop working. And this on a highway still works perfectly fine. So BMW, if I were you, I'd contact this lady and say, hey, bring it into XX dealer and we will fix the thing. If you have any care for your customers, I'd advise you to do it, because otherwise I'll continue to tell people about cars like this and what lousy service you give them. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.